All right, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the first episode of Are You Kidding Me? My name is Jamal Kareem, and I'm with my co-host. Introduce yourself, good sir.
Abdul Mateen, right here from Air 2071 here at Emirates Towers. Jamal and myself are from Project U. And we're delving into some really unexplored avenues with this podcast, aren't we, Jamal?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Inshallah, it's going to be a very interesting journey, and we have a lot to cover. And we feel like it's really important. We've been talking about this for a long time.
I can see the weight of the situation on your shoulders right now.
Yes, I think you can. So let's get into it. Okay, so basically, we are both a part of Project U. Abdul Mateen, can you tell us a bit about Project U and what we do?
Sure. So Project U was a social enterprise that was launched in 2017 under a grant from Expo Live, the social impact arm of Expo 2020. And, you know, we started off with a simple idea. What we're learning in schools and our education system today, it's not enough for the real world. So how do we complement what we're learning in the current education framework with the missing gaps? And so we had a hypothesis. What if there was a year-long program that runs alongside school, filling in the gaps that school had? And that resulted in our flagship program, the Build and Guild. And through Project U's journey, we've been able to do amazing work with nearly 3,000 students from across the UAE. And we've got to work with schools, with governments, with universities, and boy, are we just getting started.
Awesome. Really interesting stuff. And okay, so I have been working with Project U for the last 6 months. I came on board as an intern, and now I'm working full-time with Project U. It's been an amazing journey. Very enlightening, and you know, these issues, a lot of the issues, and some of these issues we're actually going to speak about in this podcast. A lot of these issues are the real deal, and they happen every day, but they're not always spoken about. Some of them are quite taboo, actually. All right, so let's get into the podcast, right? So the podcast is going to be called "Are You Kidding Me?" and that comes from Mr. Abdul Mateen's.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, there we go. There we heard it. Yeah. That's where the name came from.
We did a trial run of this podcast and we realized that we started saying that quite a lot based on
No, not we, you. Don't bring we into this.
Thanks to our radio host Hind for the wonderful sound effects.
DJ Hind. There we go. Okay, yeah. We'll let you know when to use them. All right, so basically the podcast is called Are You Kidding Me? And what we did before we started this podcast is we sent out a Google form titled Youth Problems, right? And we sent it out to a wide range of groups, kids or teenagers or youth from our different programs. We asked them to share it with their friends and family. And we really, we sent this Google form quite far and wide in order to get a few good responses. And basically we asked people to highlight problems that they face today, specifically as youth. And we had some really interesting responses, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We had some incredible responses. And I think in today's podcast, we kind of want to set the stage up for the series by looking at some of the highlights of the topics that the students have shared. It's not common where students get a chance to actually talk about what's on their minds these days. Most of the time, we're consumers of media and consumers of content. We're just consuming, and I think right now, young people need a chance to talk about what it's on their mind. And that's what we hope the podcast will be, an amazing platform for people to share what's on their minds. And so let's jump into this treasure trove of data that we have, Jamal. What's the first thing that kind of, shines out at you?
Right. So the first thing so what stands out from this list, and we've highlighted it over here, is identity issue, sense of belonging, not able to focus, don't know what career to choose, don't know how to find the passion, don't know the importance of having a mentor and leadership skills.
See, this is pretty, it sounds simple, but it really is life-changing. And see, one of my struggles has always been, how do we communicate the importance of such things to parents first and to students as well? Because most of the time our focus has been on, grades. We're told to focus on our grades because that's our ticket to a better life. But we do realize even the person with the best grades, with the best, degrees or whatever, if they're unable to, understand and comprehend these issues around identity, around having a sense of purpose and vision and mission, they are unable to actually launch it and make it a success in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen this happen all around us. I've seen it. You've seen it. I dare say I've experienced it for myself. And it can really be it really feels like you're stuck in limbo with this issue. Because, look, you don't get answers from anywhere.
Don't you? But I remember you at that stage. You were asking everyone around. So don't you get answers from everyone? Then your uncle, your aunt, your friends on the street, your friends you never spoken to, mentors, people on the, people on internet.
See, but that's the thing. Youth nowadays are not really able to filter out.
Let's talk about you. Were you able to filter out?
Look, for me, what I did, okay, if you want to talk about me, what I did.
Let's talk about you.
Okay, let's talk about me. Let's talk about me.
You're the one who's here.
Yes, so. I am here. Let's talk about me. So what I did was I went to a school that did IGCSE and A-levels. And when it came to A-levels, so I did IGCSE. When it came to A-levels, the only option I had were the sciences and math, right? So I was sort of forced down that pathway. And it was sort of It was sort of something molded into me, that sciences, do engineering specifically. I was good at math. I was okay at physics, and I did well in those two subjects in my IGCSE. So I thought, I'm good at math. I'm good at physics. Maybe engineering is for me. And that's the first thing you get, right? That's the first impression you get as soon as you think math, you think physics. What do you think? You think engineering.
Yeah.
Right? But is that the right formula in making a decision? Is that the right way to go about it?
You tell me, bro, because I think at that age, and even when you do study engineering at a university level, you're made to believe it is, right? It's only after when students graduate from university and they spend months that turn into years without a job, do they realize that's not the right framework. And COVID has just, accelerated this problem. It hasn't been, it wasn't that COVID was the one that caused this problem. You and I both know that this problem existed way before COVID as well.
Absolutely.
Right? And so going back to the identity issue, did that solve what you were, did all of that, quote unquote community help, did that actually help you?
I'll be completely honest. Talking to people did help me. It did help me in the sense that I was able to gather a more holistic picture, and I was able to see the benefits, right? The pros and cons, and weigh out the pros and cons. And alhamdulillah, I'm happy with my decision, right? But however, that still doesn't negate the fact that there's a problem, right? And the problem is that when it comes to the youth, right, we're always thinking about the next step, right? And hold on.
Aren't we always thinking about the next step in whatever phase?
Exactly.
Even old people are thinking about what they're going to do.
Let me finish. Okay. Let me finish. Right. We're always thinking about the next step.
Yes.
What we should be thinking about is the next 10 steps. Right. So in school,
like chess.
Exactly. So in school, what do you think? In school, you think, okay, let me do my IGCSEs and let me get into my A-levels. Next step.
Yeah.
When in A-levels, you think, okay, let me get these A star AA or A star A or whatever results you need to get into university.
Yeah.
Next step. University, you think about, okay, first year, how do I get to second year? Pass and get to third year. And third year...
So
and
most people are
it's-
only thinking about their next step instead of thinking of the next 10 steps.
Absolutely, right? And when you start to think about your next 10 steps, then you plan ahead. So because, the way it works is that IGCSEs, this is the British curriculum at least. I'm not quite sure about IB or the American curriculum, but see, IGCSE is a ticket to A-levels. A-levels is a ticket to university. University is obviously the ticket is your degree, and that degree is a ticket to a job. It's just tickets, right? But when you think about it, when you look, so if people go in depth and do in-depth research about what they will be doing as an engineer after they graduate, what are the most probable sectors they'll enter? What are the sectors that have the most opportunities
are needed in the market,
right? When they do this research, right, then they will get a more holistic picture. But unfortunately, youth are not taught to do this research, right?
They're just taught to follow.
They're taught to follow. They're taught to focus on their exams. They're taught to memorize biology and, do past papers for math.
One thing that was quite interesting, just this week we had the Mohammed bin Zayed Majlis. And there was a poll that was conducted. I think 14,000 youth from around the UAE attended that majlis, and there was a poll that was conducted about what future careers that are most interesting to you. The highest sector where people are interested in careers is in renewable energy, right? And most people were like, renewable energy is where we want a lot of our workforce to go into. Only 10 or 12% actually wanted to go into arts and culture. Less than half of them want to go into traditional higher education like engineering or medicine. So that was quite fascinating to me. But I'm just curious, how many actual renewable energy jobs do we actually have in the UAE, right? And see, that's something that's interesting to me, because that shows if we're producing 10,000 renewable energy graduates every year, for example, do we actually have 10,000 jobs in the market? Isn't that how we're supposed to think about it? Or has university become a place where, as long as I pay the 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 dirham tuition fee per year, I just get my degree, regardless of whether it fits into the market reality or not? But to be very honest, I think that's a problem that we can talk about for ages. But that's definitely something that we're going to highlight in some of our upcoming episodes.
So guys, these problems we're going through, we plan on having dedicated episodes for each and every one of them.
Let's call them challenges.
Challenges.
I like challenges.
All right, challenges. We can call them challenges. We plan on having dedicated episodes for each and every one of them, and those episodes are going to be deep dives. So we're going to go in depth, hopefully, inshallah, and tackle those problems head on. All right, let's move on here. Why don't you tell us what stands out for you?
For me, I think the next one was stress. Stress from school, stress from your board exams, stress from their personal life, and stress from their families. One has even written stress from authoritative figures in their lives. So probably, like their teachers or mentors or whoever.
Where do you think this stress stems from, though?
So I was just having a discussion about this the other day with some person. What was the difference between stress and pressure?
It's a very good question. See, the way I understood,
are they feeling pressure or are they feeling stress? Go ahead.
The way I understand it is stress is is something that occurs over a long period of time, right? And
IGs is multiple years, A-levels is multiple years.
True, but is that time? Obviously, we'll have to ask a professional, but I don't think stress is the right term to use when you're in high school.
But see, and let's not. One thing is, okay, fine. A professional is the best person to diagnose it in the perfect way. We're in no way trying to diagnose any of these problems. We're just talking about what we see on the ground. I think that's the simplest thing that we have. We at Project U are very, very blessed in a way that we get to speak to kids almost on a daily basis. Speak to students who go to schools who have their lives on a daily basis, and we get to see that on the ground. So, what my point was saying that in saying that is, in high school, the smallest problems feel like the biggest ones, right? Personal or professional, personal or academic, right? They feel like the biggest mountain you can climb. As is, like if I ask a KG1 kid to finish an exam just writing the alphabets A, B, C, D, that KG1 kid would freak out probably and say that's the most difficult thing that they have had to do in their lives, right? But that's the stage of our lives. So that's very difficult at their age. I think when you talk about stress, put it in the perspective of that time, of their experiences. They don't know what the real world is like. Whose fault is that? That's a separate topic in and of itself. But at that stage of their lives, if they mess up one mock, if they mess up one exam, end of times. I don't know about you, but I've had 2 people during my high school journey who've ended their lives. Right here, locally, I'm not talking about somewhere in another part of the world. 2 people who've ended their lives at 16 because they thought that, this was too much.
That is sad.
Apart from sad, it's outrageous. And one thing that I can also see from a parent's perspective is, yes, there are parents who are putting stress on their kids, but there are a lot of parents who actually want to support their kids and they just don't know how to. You can see that they have work. They come home in the afternoon, in the evenings. They're tired themselves. They come and they see their child coming home from school. They kind of have a conversation. By the way, do you know the KHGA released a report on their mental on well-being, and they said that less than 40% of kids above grade 9 have a relationship with an adult in their lives. A relationship with that. They don't have a relationship with their teachers. They don't have a relationship with their parents. They don't have a relationship with an elder sibling, elder cousin, elder aunt. Nothing. So where is the support that youth need to get? Is this system feasible? That's the problem. That's one of the biggest problems that we can see over here. Of course, you're going to get stressed because you don't have an outlet to discuss it or to share it. And one small problem is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger until, it blows up. Why do people have families? Why do people have families? Throughout history, because that in and of itself is a sense of escape. It allows, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, you can go home and there are people who love you unconditionally, who care about you, who no matter what you do, they will fight for you. Largely, to an extent. I don't know if you kill somebody, if your parents are still going to love you, but still, I don't know. But largely to an extent, people know that they'll care about you. Today we're living in times where a lot of people, I don't want to say the majority, but a lot of people are going back home and they don't know if they actually have lives. I'm going to stop ranting now because let's talk about that in an episode in and of itself.
Definitely. All right, the next issue we have here, the next problem or challenge, as you like to call them.
That pops out to you.
The next challenge that pops out to me is this one. This is a very interesting one.
What is this? You just keep saying
so basically, the person here has written marriage. Guaranteed, the cure to most of the problems mentioned in other answers is marriage. You feel lonely or depressed? Marriage. You feel like you're wasting too much time? Marriage. You feel like your parents are asking too much? Marriage. That's an interesting one.
See, doesn't this tie into...
Wait, hold on. Our DJ is smiling. Is she? Is that something you go through? You can... Okay, yeah, thank you.
I don't know what that was. But see, this ties into what I was saying earlier. At the end of the day, the cornerstone of human development is family, especially in our communities, largely Asian communities, Arab communities, Emirati communities, for sure. It's family, right? And so I don't know if you want to call it pressure or whatever, the framework for why there's a push to get married, whether internally or extrinsically, is because you want to continue that concept that, you know, you're going to build your family. Just how biology is there. Older generations get older, they pass away. The next generation needs to come, right? And we see a tragedy in the sense that we don't get a lot of people are getting married later and later. If they're getting married later and later, they have kids later and later. If they have kids later and later, they're very old when it comes into, you know, when they have their grandkids. So do they have a properly, fully functioning married life? No. Heck, I'm 24. I can't relate to 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. You know, it's honestly shocking because I used to be like, oh, those weird adults, they don't know what the heck they're doing. And now I'm a weird adult and I can't relate to these kids, man. So especially if you're a parent and you can't speak the language of the younger generation, how are you supposed to have that, you know, support? Marriage goes back down to mental well-being. And again, there is no framework or system that's straightforward, that's addressing it. It used to be much more clear back in the day. Now, not so much. What do you think?
I think it goes back to companionship. I think companionship is very important to be able. I mean, human beings are social creatures, right?
Creatures, yes.
Yeah, we are. Being social is inbuilt in us, right?
Inherent.
Yeah, and basically that's what I feel like whenever our parents or our grandparents are pushing us to get married, it's for that very companionship. Because, see, a lot of us, and the thing is, I feel like a lot of us prioritize ourselves, right? And
selfish.
To the extent where initially it's just about my career, my education, how much money can I make, where can I go, what can I do? And when you ask someone why they don't want to get married, they say, well, I want to travel the world first. And you think, wait, hold on. What makes you think you can't do that when you're married? Right? Obviously, I understand that
Indian dramas and Bollywood movies.
Yeah. I understand there are definitely other circumstances that pop up, responsibilities, right? But in the end, I feel like the human happiness, and I believe this is backed by psychology, the human happiness is pegged to the solidarity of a good and healthy family.
See, I agree with you, and frankly, like all of the topics that we're talking about today, it can have an episode in and of themselves. You know, a couple of things that pop up to mind when I talk about when this comes into the picture. It's also about that very important concept of getting married when you feel like you're ready. You told me very clearly some weeks back that there's never such thing as ready for marriage, right? But I also am trying to rationalize. I don't have an opinion on this. I'm also trying to rationalize the fact that people have boyfriends and girlfriends at 15, at 16, at 17, right? So what perfectionism does one need to look for? And at the end of the day, what is there such thing as a right time? And or is it just the right mindset? If you have the right mindset, can you get into marriage? Because at the end of the day, marriage is a game of compromise, right? I can't get exactly what I want all the time, right? And neither can the other person. So is that an instance? You know, frankly, to be very honest, we talk about this all day.
Yes, we can. Okay, let's move on. Guys, as I said, and I'll mention it again, we're going to be tackling all of these issues in depth, right?
In the upcoming podcasts.
All right. Let's go through some of these other problems. Yeah, this is something I like.
Discipline, time management, and loss of Emirati Islamic values. I think that in and of itself is quite a lot, because at the end of the day, see, someone told me this when I was much younger, that loss of we're always taught what to learn. We're not taught how to learn. Right? This concept of, oh, you're an auditory learner, or you're a kinetic learner, or you learn by reading, or you learn by discussing with friends. Honestly, I learned this, I want to say high school, but it could have been later. What about you? When did you learn about this?
I learned about it in university.
Exactly. What about our middle school and high school years? Everyone learned through reading books, right? But for me, I learned better when I was having a conversation with the teacher, or when I was having a conversation with my peers, right? And that's why I never studied for exams, because as long as I had kept having those conversations, that thing was embedded in my brain, and I would get amazing grades because that was how I understood. The moment that social aspect of learning was taken out from me and I solely had to learn through books, my marks went okay. So shouldn't we be taught how to manage our time, how to prioritize, how to build self-discipline, how to have self-awareness, rather than just saying, hey, just do. That's my problem. That's my biggest problem with mental well-being. Okay, these days everyone just says, hey, we need to be more mentally aware. We need to be more, careful about how everyone else is feeling. How exactly are we supposed to do that? How are we supposed to be more empathetic? How are we supposed to have self-awareness? Go read up on yourself. Do people do that? 90% of them don't. Right? So if you don't have the majority of people being taught the how part, how are you going to expect them to do it? And somebody taught me this. Did somebody not teach me anything? I always begin with that line. Anyhow, somebody taught me this, where they said, don't tell people what to do, show them how to do it, especially if it's the first time that they're doing it, right? And that's so true, especially for people beginning their careers. Because if I say, hey, just go work on this Excel sheet, you want to learn from it, just go to YouTube and learn from it by yourself. But if you don't show me how to do it in the beginning, even if I have all the resources in the world in front of me, it's still difficult to do it. I know logically it doesn't make sense, right? Because logically this person is supposed to do it, but logic doesn't work in the world. It's the reality of the world, right? It's the realities that we live in. And the reality of the matter is that unless someone is guided through how they want to do that stuff, how they want to complete a task, they're not going to be able to do it.
That was a biteful. Yeah, definitely. I agree with you 100% on this one. And by the way, guys, I just wanted to put this out there. We are not each other's yes men. We do disagree. We disagree on quite a number of things, although we do agree more than we disagree, and I'd like to believe that we have the same values, but for the most part, actually, we do disagree on things as well, and that will come up.
The other part that we want to talk about was the loss of Emirati
there we go. Yeah,
values.
that's what I wanted to highlight. The loss of Emirati Islamic values and identity. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this, although I haven't really researched it, and I don't really like speaking too much about things that I know nothing about. But I feel like the loss of Emirati and Islamic values, I feel like they probably come from social media, movies, Netflix.
See, one thing that
I don't have the data to back this up.
No, but you.
Right? But
see, at the end of the day, right here, we're talking about what we see in the world, right?
Yeah.
Other people might see different things. Kudos to them.
Yeah.
Do come here. We'd love to have you as a guest to talk about it.
Absolutely.
One thing that I do want to kind of highlight is you're not going to be able to stop globalization. Okay, globalization is coming whether you like it or not. In the UAE, we don't have places like Chinatown or Little India, or other weirdly culturally demarcated places like you have in London, New York, or some other places in the world, where if you enter that place, it's completely that. It's completely that culture and that language. I remember I went to Los Angeles for the first time, and when I landed there, when I was going from the from the airport to the hotel for the very first time, the driver took us through Chinatown in Los Angeles, and I was pretty dazed because I was like, oh my God, look at the scenery. And then I looked outside, and then I saw everything was in Chinese. I'm like, hang on, where did I land? Are you
You're in Shanghai or something?
Are you sure the aircraft landed in Los Angeles? Did it take me to like Hong Kong or something? And then literally, because at least in the UAE, we have Arabic and then it's written in English.
Yeah.
Right? In Chinatown, everything is in Chinese. And there's only Chinese people walking around. And I'm like, hang on a second. Where am I? And then that shock was there. We don't have that in the UAE. Everything is pretty homogeneous in the sense that we have a unique culture. We don't like segregate people based on cultures and keep one area entirely for these kind of people, which is an amazing thing to have. So my point is, globalization is going to come.
So how do we still cling on to our values and our culture?
Do we need
identity?
to cling on?
That's a good point.
If something needs to be clinged onto, is it worth being there? Having said that, I think there are aspects of values, especially faith, where you do not compromise on, right?
Absolutely.
So in when you're talking about values like that, it goes back to the how part. Remember we were talking about how a little bit earlier?
Yeah.
If you're able to build the how aspect of faith, you're able to better apply it. People who've been applying what they've learned across their values, whether they be Emirati, Arab, Islamic, whatever values they are, if they're able to apply their values in their day-to-day life, they're going to stand up for that more.
Okay, yeah. For the most part, I do agree with you. But let's cut out one aspect of culture. Right?
Okay.
And let's talk about how the loss of this aspect, right? I wouldn't say it's a good thing, and that's language, right? The other day, I was walking in Area 2071, and I wasn't walking. I was sitting down. I was doing my work, and I saw two Emirati men wearing a full kandora and the ghitra and Ghatra. Oh, my bad. What is it, DJ? Is it how do you pronounce it? Okay, we can't hear it anyways. So basically, they were wearing the full Emirati kit, basically, right? And they were talking to each other. Now, initially, as they were walking close, as they were walking towards me, I couldn't really make out what they were saying. But as they passed me, I heard them speak in pure English. And I was shocked. I was like, what? Literally pure English. These are two Emirati men speaking in English. Now, look, I'm not saying there's wait before we assess this. I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong with that per se, right? But this is what I mean. This is the point that's brought up by this specific person who's highlighted this loss of Emirati/Islamic values and identity.
I think a better way to frame that is just that. I mean, I was talking to a friend who works in government the other day, and they were telling us that they have to use Google Translate to write Arabic emails.
Yeah, I was there. Yes.
Right. I'm like, wait a minute. You're Arab. What do you mean? You need to use Google Translate to write Arabic emails? Even I know Google Translate doesn't actually make write the best Arabic emails. But you're like, yeah, if we want to write a formal Arabic email, we have to use Google Translate. I said, which school do you go to? She said, a public school. I said, you went to a public school and you don't know how to write in Arabic? She said, yeah. That's my problem with the system. Are you kidding me that we've built so much frameworks of education?
Wait, guys, there you heard it. You heard it yourselves for the first time. Are you kidding me?
I mean, seriously, we invest hundreds of millions in education, and at the end of the day, we have 25-year-old graduates from our schools and universities who can't even write one email in Arabic properly.
Yeah,
what is your point of your A's and A stars and all the other
You could argue the point that you could argue the point that basically the widespread what's basically spoken here is the Emirati dialect, and that doesn't really that's not really used in.
Do you speak Emirati dialect in schools? In Arabic classes, do you speak an Emirati dialect? For once, I asked this question to them because I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, we're supposed to learn in Arabic." And sometimes, the teacher might be Jordanian or, some other country. It may not be Emirati, so they may not necessarily speak to an Emirati Arabic as well. But still, for so many years, you're studying and you don't get it. And that's why, I know that the KHDA has instilled a lot of new values, and especially the Arabic and Islamic studies is much better than what it was 10, 15 years ago.
Abdul Mateen, I feel like this goes back to globalization. You said it's coming,
yes,
right? And globalization is part of globalization is basically it's basically the lingua franca, which is basically the trade language,
English,
which is English, right? Being globalized, right? And in very interesting, another short story. I was actually in an Uber in Malaysia, and the Uber driver was Malay by ethnicity, and he was telling me that back in his day, he was working in a bank, and you could work in a bank in Malaysia and not speak a word of English. And he said now his son, who doesn't speak English, is finding it almost impossible to find a job because he doesn't speak English in Malaysia, where the local language, the national language, is Malay, right? And so, how do we fix this? How do we and learning English? What does that mean? Learning English, right? And making English, standardizing English, right? It's leading to things like what I just told you about the two Emiratis who spoke English to each other.
See, I think it also the language in which you dream in and the language in which you swear is your mother tongue, right? What language do you dream in and what language do you swear? That's your mother tongue. Okay, and no matter what languages you think or you think you speak, especially as Indians, we like to claim that we can speak a lot of languages because India has a lot of languages.
Yes.
Okay, we normally dream and swear in English. No, it's see, one aspect is, yes, of course, that allows us to communicate and that allows us to build bridges with people from all over the world, because, like you said, lingua franca. On the other hand, we're facing a mass extinction of culture.
Yes.
We're facing a mass extinction of culture.
And do you agree with me do you agree that it's sad?
It's sad, but are you going to stop it? No.
I mean,
you're not going to stop it because, see, at the end of the day, it's a wave that's coming in. You're standing there, even if you have the biggest, bestest tank in the world, it's still a wave that's coming. Yeah, it's going to wash all over you.
Yeah, but then if everyone gets together and if everyone joins the movement of preventing this wave, and they stand in solidarity, right? Holding on to.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So okay, I stand in solidarity. I join a group. We're gonna be talking in Arabic for an hour a week. Yay! We're the Arabic speakers group. Okay, I leave that group and I go out and I want to get a taxi. What language do I speak in? English. Okay, I will go to Spinneys or Carrefour or Lulu and I want to buy something in the market. I'm talking to the cashier. What language do I speak in? English. My kids go to school.
You're talking about the UAE. You're talking about the UAE.
Okay,
right? Because the UAE
wherever else,
the majority of the labor force in the UAE, right? Taxi drivers, cashiers, they're made up of expats, right? But I'm talking about, in this specific, I know that the person who posed this, the person who wrote this down on the Google form said Emirati values and identity, right? But I'm asking you as a whole, right? Any country, right? How do you prevent the loss of language?
See, if you want to prevent loss of language and loss of culture, get a time machine and go back to the 1600s and stop the East India Company from invading all of these countries.
You know what English is? English is the White Walkers.
I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is?
And the Army of the Dead.
No idea what that is.
Okay, yeah. Guys, I'm doing a podcast with an absolute boomer over here. Can someone please come and save me? Have you never heard of the White Walkers and the Army of the Dead?
Do you know what the White Walkers and the Army of the Dead is?
No, she doesn't.
Even she doesn't know.
She's a boomer as well. Never mind. Yeah, people who listen to this podcast will get the reference. The White Walkers and the Army of the Dead. That's what English is.
Is it like a Game of Thrones?
There we go. He does know.
I don't know. I didn't watch Game of Thrones.
Okay. Anyways,
The kid was killed in the first episode. I
oh
didn't watch
my
that.
god, you're spoiling it for everyone who hasn't watched it and wants to watch it. Anyways, yeah, that's what it is. That's what English is. But I mean, if you do watch Game of Thrones, they do triumph against the White Walkers and the Army of the Dead. I'm spoiling it as well. Yeah, I know, DJ. I know you don't watch the show, but a lot of people do. Some of us who have lives, we do find time to watch.
People have lives by not watching shows. Anyhow, the point. Thank you.
I'm being ganged up over here.
The point of the matter is that this tsunami was started hundreds of years ago, right?
True.
And I just want to end this by one example.
Basically, you say the tsunami started with the
Colonialism.
the East India Company.
Colonialism in general, whether it be the East India Company, whether it be Dutch East India Company, whether it be the French or German, whatever, European colonialism. Malcolm X, I was just listening to a talk of his today morning, and he was saying that the reason that I have an X at the end of my name is because I come from a tribe, I come from a culture that I cannot relate to. I have no idea what my history is. My history, as taught in the history books today, is a one that started in servitude, is a one that started with my grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather being a slave. And what happened before that, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that my genealogy didn't start by me being a slave, but that's where all the history books recorded as. And that I see what he means. And I think, I don't know how much more time do we have.
Not much.
Yeah, but I think that's the beauty of having podcasts and more media content coming from, voices like us in this part of the world.
Absolutely.
Because, 5, 10, 15 years later in the world, if the majority of voices are only coming from foreign countries, your future generation, my future generation, our DJ's future generation have nothing to relate to. They just relate to European culture or Western culture or some other culture that doesn't, reflect what happened. So if you want to protect language, protect culture, create more content where people are watching.
Basically, raise awareness.
Create content. Raising awareness is one thing, but making it something that you can constantly going back to is the thing, right? At least for me, raising awareness about climate change and global warming and plastic blah, 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 is good, but you need to actually go ahead and build something that makes that actually causes that change. Because I can have everybody up in arms by raising awareness, by doing something viral. But that doesn't. It's not going to be lasting change.
No, I disagree with you, because you can say that raising awareness. Look,
ALS Ice Bucket Challenge raised a ton of awareness in the world. Where the heck is?
They did not raise a lot of money because of that awareness.
Do you know how much money was actually given to ALS?
How much?
40% of the money that was raised brought $200 million. Do you know where the rest of the money went?
Where?
Marketing and commissions. 60% went to marketing and commissions.
Yeah, then that's a fundamental flaw in the structure of whatever organization.
Which is what most organizations do. Right? And I don't know where that fits in.
So then what the awareness does?
Yes, exactly. Awareness is there. I'm more than happy to do awareness. I was completely anti-awareness at one point, but then I was educated by the Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations. Actually, I met him last year here in Dubai, and he told that.
Wait, who did you meet?
The Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations.
Okay.
He said that what Greta Thunberg did for climate change.
Greta Thunberg is the young girl who spoke
16-year-old girl.
Who spoke about climate change. Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
She did more for climate change than a lot of these scientists who've been trying to convince governments with data.
Awareness.
Which I appreciate awareness, but at the end of the day, there needs to be action tied into awareness. What's the next thing with Greta Thunberg? What can you and I do now that Greta Thunberg raised awareness?
No, absolutely, yeah, but don't
I'm not
don't belittle-
undervaluing.
don't-
I'm not belittling raising awareness.
okay.
But I think that especially for a person like me, my fulfillment lies in creating systems that solve for a challenge, not just talking about
And that's
it.
what we all essentially. That's what we're all doing, right? We're trying to find our fulfillment.
Yeah, especially with and that's a fundamental principle of Project Q as well.
Absolutely.
So I mean that's a personal opinion, but yeah, I think we have one or two more topics to wrap up the show.
Yes, we do. Okay. Identity crisis.
We just talked about identity crisis.
No,
and
we didn't really speak about identity.
Malcolm X, he doesn't have an identity
yeah,
crisis.
true. We did speak about that. See, a lot of these topics are, I think, it's
Interlinked and
yeah,
intertwined.
they're intertwined. They definitely.
I
are
think one thing
intertwined.
that pops out to me over there was the advent of high expectations, right? People generally say that what they want to do and what they're expected to do are two separate things, and a lot of times people are living lives for someone else and they're not living their own lives, and that's a catastrophe. See, a lot of the challenges, almost all of them, JC, that they've been talking about, that the kids spoke about, where are
Hey,
they?
guys, just to clarify, he calls me JC, and those are my initials. My name is Jamal Kareem, and JC. I'm putting context to this so that people know who you're referring to when you say JC.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please, can I have the clapping? Thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated for
All right.
for losing my train of thought. Anyhow, what I was trying to say is that at the end of the day, there needs to be a critical demarcation between what's actually expected in our systems today and what we actually need. All of the students, what they've said over the course of more than 40 or so responses that we got, all of them talk about emotional and social challenges. Not one of them say, I have a problem with math. Not one of them say, I don't know if I can get better grades in English. Not one of them say, I want to build a robot or stuff. All of them are emotional and social issues, which is the biggest gap in our system today. At multiple phase levels, whether it be from education, whether it be in marriage, whether it be in stress management and social care, community care. And at the end of the day, let's end the podcast by answering this question, or at least pondering on it. Whose responsibility is it? Whose is it? Is it the schools? Is it government? Is it families, parents? Whose is it? At the end of all of this, I go back to something that my professor told me in the first week that when I joined university. And we'll talk about that, story some other day, because that was not a normal story, not a normal journey of joining university. Where do I have normal journeys?
Yes.
The first week, the professor told me, he said, regardless of whether I'm a good professor or not, in a few months' time, the semester is going to get over. You're going to have an exam to write, and then you're going to go on to the next semester. Don't give excuses that the professor wasn't good, or that you don't have the right resources, or other random excuses people give to not learn. You have an opportunity to learn now. If you miss this opportunity, the only person to blame is you. And that was so empowering to me, because I'm not going to give an excuse that I didn't go to the right university, that I didn't have the right professor, that I didn't have the right textbook, or didn't have the right resources, because at the end of the day, learning or getting something done comes back to me. If I wanted to do it, I would have found a way of doing it. And that's absolutely right. I cannot keep giving excuses, or my family said this, or that person did this, or the system is like that, or the country is like this. a lot of us as young people love to give excuses. We love to, pass the blame on to someone else. But this is about ownership. We're going to take care of our own Pampers. I don't know why I said Pampers, but we're gonna take care of ourselves. We're not gonna wait for someone else to come with a magic wand and fix our problems. That is what this podcast is gonna be all about. Us trying to talk about issues where we're gonna become big boys and girls who are going to do something about solving for these issues in a manner that makes sense to the world, and in the end of the day in a manner that's flexible, because what worked for us in 2019 is not going to work for us in 2021. Right? Absolutely.
And hopefully, inshallah, as people listen to this and as we raise awareness to these issues, paradigms and perspectives will change, right?
Absolutely.
And we're really hoping for that to be the case, because and that's basically what Project U is focusing on. We're trying to change the perspective of parents and students on this hegemonic system of education that's completely, extorting people.
And not just the education, other issues that, us as young people face.
100%.
So, I think that brings an end to today's wonderful podcast. I think it was a great start, kind of bombastic start. But I can't wait to see the next few episodes and see how we start to untangle this. And let's build it on from there.
Yes, we will, inshallah. Thank you guys so much. If you've gotten this far into the podcast, thank you so much for listening. We hope you join us on this journey. And on this journey in creating impact and adding value to society, and specifically to the youth. That's it from myself.
And myself.
Thank you guys so much. Have an absolutely fantastic week from Jamal, Abdul Mateen, and DJ Hind.
Stay safe, everyone.
Take care.
As-salama.
Bye-bye.